Hey lovelies, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll be sharing with you guys how I made this skirt. So if you're interested, stay tuned to the end. Thanks. So to make this skirt, we'll be needing materials like tape, scissors, check, ruler, and our fabric. So we'll be folding our fabric into two, and we'll ensure that the width we brought out will be enough for our front piece of the skirt. So from the end, we'll mark our full length, that's skirt full length, which here I'm using 40. Though the skirt is for a client and her full length is 40. So I'm marking that 40 because it's actually a very long skirt. So after marking the 40, I'll connect the lines with a ruler. Then after that, at the folded part, I'm going to measure out 1 inch. The excess of this 1 inch I'm going to be marking through to the down part of the skirt is for the slit which we have at the left side of our skirt. So it's going to serve as the slit, the allowance for the slit. Yes, so that's it. Then from the line we marked, that's where our measurements is going to be starting from. So from our waistline we'll come down by 9 inches, which is our hip line. So go ahead and mark your hip line. Yours can be 8, it can be 10. It depends on your body type or shape. So I've already marked it and connected it to the ruler. Then from that line we marked at that 1 inch, we'll mark our waist circumference divided by 4. Then at our hip line, we'll divide our hip circumference divided by 4 and also mark it there. Then we'll go up to our waist circumference. We'll add our allowances. We'll add 1 inch for our dart intake and then the other 1 inch for our sewing allowance, which is 2 inches. Then at the hip line, we'll add 1.5 for our hip allowance. So in order to get the down circumference, you measure what you have at the hip line, then minus 1 or 2 inches from it, at most 3 inches from it to get there, or you minus 6 from the total figure you have at the hip circumference, minus 6 from it, then divide it by 4, and that's it. So I minus 6 from the hip measurement, then I divided it by 4. That was what I used. You understand? Don't do this if your skirt will not be having slits, because you won't be able to walk on it. But because mine has a high slit, that's why I made it that pencil, in order to have a nice shape and fitting. Then after that, you cut along the white lines. Please, if you've watched to this extent and you've not subscribed, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Turn on the notification bell in case I post any video, and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you so much. From this line, we'll be marking our dots. That's, some people call it princess, while some call it nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. So that's our dart intake. Then we'll now mark out half inch from the side, which will give us total of 1 inch. Then we'll notch that place to know exactly where our dart is going to be at. Then we'll now open the skirt. We'll open it up. Remember the line at the middle, which is that 1 inch line we marked earlier. We'll be marking out 2 inches, and then from that 2 inches we will now mark our dart measurement. So that is 4 inches. So when you mark the 2 inches, then you mark your dart. Then you measure all of them together, which will give you a total of 6, and you mark it all through. Then you connect the lines. The excess of the 2 inches is when it was unfolded, we marked 1 inch. So when it now that it's open, is going to be 2 inches. Then from that new line we marked, we'll mark 1 inch from both sides. Then we'll cut it out. So that is where our slit will be on. Then I'm going to notch those 1 inch I brought out from the sides. So this is all for our front piece. Then we'll move over to the back piece. So for the back piece, I forgot to say something earlier while we were cutting the front piece. At the down part of this fabric, there's unwoven threads. My client wants it to be the hem at the down part of the skirt. So because of that, I had to just mark the full length directly without adding any hemming allowance. So if you are going to be using any material that you don't want the down part to be the hem part of your skirt, go ahead and add hemming allowance for you to be able to hem it. So after that, we just have to just transfer what we've done on our front piece to the back piece, excluding the 1 inch line we marked at the middle of our skirt. So after getting your waistline, your hip line, the next thing to do is to mark at the middle of the back piece 1.5 inches downwards. The 1.5 inches is for our zipper allowance. And since the slit is at the front, the back won't be having any slits. So after marking it, you connect it with a ruler like we did at the front piece. Our measurements will be starting from this white line we've ruled. So on our waistline, we'll be marking our waist measurement divided by 4 plus our dart intake and our allowance. Then on the hip line, we'll be marking our hip measurement divided by 4 plus our allowance as well, sewing allowance. Then at the down part, like we did at the front, our hip circumference minus 6 divided by 4, we'll mark it here as well, plus sewing allowance, we'll mark it there. Then we'll connect the lines together using a ruler. I adjusted the clothes, so I'm trying to make sure that it has not shortened by any way. So connect the lines together using a ruler, and that's what I'm doing. So after that, from the waistline, you come down to your hip line and mark. Then from that hip line, you come down by 4.5 for sitting allowance. Then you curve it towards the hip line. The essence of this coming down for sitting allowance is for one to be able to sit them properly without having any difficulties around the hip line or the skirt being tight. If you are heavy down there, that's if your hip is weighing 40 and above, you can come down by 5 or 5.5. Then after that, you cut out along the white lines. So this is all for the back piece. Then we are done with the back piece, and this is our back piece and our front piece. This are there. So the next thing to do is to cut out our band for the skirt. So for the band, I'll be using 31 inches. I'll be adding extra 3 inches to my hip, to my waist circumference. Then that's for the width. Then the length will be by 4, so that after sewing using half inch, it will give me 3 inches. Of fold should be 1.5 inches. So I'm cutting out the band using 31 by 4 inches. That is all for the band. So our skirt is ready for sewing. Then for the band, like I said earlier, I added extra 3 inches. So my waist circumference is 28. I added extra 3 inches. That I'll cut it out. Then I'll go and sew. I come back and show you guys. So now this is it. I've already stitched the front, added the darts. Then for the back, I also added darts, and then secure my zipper allowance with a loose stitch. Then the next thing to do is to place them together and sew the sides of the skirt. Then after arranging it, I'll show you people how it looks like, and that's it. Then I'll go and sew it and then come back and show you guys how it looks like. I'll also add band and zip to it as well. And this is the final look of the skirt. I've already added the zipper, opened the places I used loose stitch. Then for the slits, I'm going to use hemming gum to hold it in place. Then this is how our skirt is looking like. Sewn clean, very neat, so very neat, very clean and beautiful. And this is our zip. Our zip is sitting perfectly. Then well stitched. So I'll iron it, give it a very good press, and that's just it. That's all for this side slits, threads, long skirts, pencil long skirts. Thank you for watching.